These are our under 100 rankers in NLSAT 2025. And apart from them, there are a lot more. So when we conducted our first AIMT for NLSAT 2025 back in 2024, around this time only, I remember most of them got a very specific question wrong. This one. Obviously, it's pretty obvious because तब उन सबको पता नहीं था कि inference होता क्या है, how is it distinct from different questions. But if I am correct also, I picked this question from the NLSAT 2022 paper. But now if I show them this question, they tell me one thing. They can solve this without even needing to look at a passage. So, hey everyone, welcome to the 10 days free NLSAT Lecture Marathon series by Lawfren, and today we are at day 2, Inference Questions. Today I can assure you one thing. By the time you are done with this lecture, you will be able to solve that question like them without even needing to look at the passage. In the course of these lecture video series, we'll be dealing with a lot of other topics. Specific detailed questions, agreement disagreement questions, strengthening weakenings, part B kaise likhte hain answers for that matter, issue identification, and actually I will be sitting and solving a part A and a part B question with you to tell you about the thinking process कि कैसे actually solve किया जाता है questions को in the actual paper. The question in your mind will be why? Why all this? Are these lecture videos enough for appearing in NLSAT? No, not obviously. Then what's the point of full-fledged course wherein we actually curate you, teach you to be a part of the rankers batch? The need of this video is to break the ice for you. A lot of you are very enthusiastic to write NLSAT, but are very scared of the paper. कि यार paper के लिए I am not adequately prepared. For that, to prepare, to be ready for sectionals, mock test, these are the 10 go-to videos. These will help you build confidence to actually go ahead and attempt sectionals and mock tests. Abhi, we understand that there is another problem that arises. Where are you going to find quality sectionals and mock test questions? We got an answer for the same. Sectionals you will be getting in NLSAT.in, free of cost. For that matter, for the matter of mock tests, Lawfren is organizing its first All India mock test for NLSAT 2026 on 9th of July 2025. What are the benefits for you for attempting this mock test? First, you get to know in a pool of all India students who will be going to attempt this exam, where do you stand? You get to know where are you strong, where you need to improve, where are you weak. You get to know key actually through personalized feedbacks that we'll be getting on this AIMT, how and when and where, what are the various issues, places wherein you need to improve and how to improve. Fourthly, if you score really well in these papers, we have got an additional gift for you. You will have the access to Lawfren Pro NLSAT 2026 at a discounted price. Given you score all India rank 1, where you will be having a 100% discount. 2 will get a 70% discount and 3 will get a 50% off on our already discounted price of 24,999. Mind you that Lawfren Pro NLSAT 2026 is your 1 year pro subscription plan for NLSAT 2026. Matlab, apart from the 6 batches that we will be launching for NLSAT 2026, you will have access to the unlimited mock tests that we will be releasing. Apart from that, you will have early access to the Lawfren crash course for NLSAT 2026. Got it? So yes, to avail all these benefits, you will have to attempt this mock test. And to attempt this mock test efficiently and to build up confidence, we have got this lecture marathon series for you. So yes, today's lecture will revolve around inference questions, wherein I will be teaching you how to actually solve them, how to avoid common mistakes, and sit with you to actually solve an inference question. The same one that I showed you in the beginning of the video. So yes, with that set in our mind, let's start the video. Inference questions, if you see it that way, form the very foundation of critical reasoning because they ask you to develop one very great skill. Read beyond the lines. Inference may, throughout this lecture, I will be pressing on 2 to 3 things. A. Stay within the contours of the passage. B. Do not repeat. Inference is not repetition, it is not reinstatement. C. Read effectively. For that matter, let's go to the notes and in a very elucidate way, fluent way, let's see what I'm trying to convey. Inference question अगर तुम देखोगे तो 3 तरह से पूछता है. Which of the following can be most reasonably inferred? The author would agree which of the following statements, which of the following statement best reflects an unstated assumption. Inference is not repetition, mind you. Inference may you need not find something that is said upper in the passage. What you actually need to do in inference, if I could properly put in a line for you, in inference questions, you need not, wherever there is repetition of words that has been in the passage, or repetition of phrases, that is our inference. Inference is not the repetition of phrases, it is the repetition of the spirit that has been what very encouraged in the passage. The challenge lies in this kind of question is staying within the justifiable limit of the passage while not repeating word to word something that has been said in the passage. So अभी हम समझ गए inference question पूछता क्या है. These form the very basics for other question like strengthening and weakening argument. What would the author most likely agree or for that matter disagree with? So in sub questions के लिए inference becomes a very important skill. So how do you develop this skill? By reading the passage in a certain way. Same three things: prediction, clarity, and no repetition rule. Prediction: mentally rephrase the core idea. Prediction me that I told you also in the previous video where we were discussing main point questions. Prediction comes after active reading. Prediction may, if the paragraph hints at people ignored the law out of fear, you need to predict, you need to understand, you need to infer that how public fear influences compliance. People अगर fear की वजह से law को follow कर रहे हैं, the inference is not how the law is so rigid, the law is so inglorious and everything. The actual inference is how fear brings out compliance. That is something actually you infer from the very theme on which the lines are written and between the lines. Then clarity. Clarity के लिए you need to understand one thing. Inference is ruined if you do shallow reading. Shallow reading kills inference at the best because shallow reading से होता क्या है ना? You go back to the passage when you spot a question that is beyond what you have understood from the passage. ऊपर से passage पढ़ लेते हो questions में jump करने के लिए to follow this thing of time efficiency, expedite answer solving. You actually do not follow. You are expedite but you are not efficient. You need to go back to the passage again to reread the facts. उसमें होता क्या है? You have formed a very decent understanding of the passage in the first reading. On the second reading, instead of appreciating the gravity, instead of appreciating the depth, the new information most of the time contradicts your previous understanding. So now you are confused, you are scared, and time is also slipping. So in all this pressure kind of situation, you're more likely to make a mistake than actually choose the correct option. So when you read the passage, chase clarity while reading the passage. Look out for words like always, never, and completely. These extreme words, always stay wary of this. Because the author, when supporting a claim, it is very rarely seen that authors take very extreme things regarding some things. Until unless they're abstracts wherein you can, a philosophy you can take extreme ends of it, but generally they are not there. So words like often, generally, and likely are more appreciated. So yes, ये सब चीजें देखना. I will also come back to this a little later. So mark of line that serve as the factual base. Factual base जो होगा ना, उनको mark कर लेना, because that will guide you कि okay, these are the brackets of the passage that I cannot cross, and these are the brackets of the passage within which I have to actually search. Inference is interpretation, it is not repetition. As I told you in the very beginning of this session, ki inference is not the repetition of the words and the phrases of the passage. It is the repetition of the spiritual idea that is being pushed in the passage. जो law वाला example में, if the passage says that people ignored the law out of fear, your inference should be how compliance is brought out when people are scared. So yes, three things: predict. Before that prediction, have proper clarity while reading, and for all of that, essentially stay within the boundaries of the passage, and B, do not repeat stuff. While we are now done with the strategies that you will be following for tackling these inference questions, let us now go to the common distractors that you need to avoid. First is overreaching the passage. Eliminate answers that feel true but are not backed by a specific line. I have already told you that inference you need not repeat a line, but you need not read between the line and repeat that spirit. इसका मतलब ये है कि you need to stay between the bracket but also find something that is not redundant. तो बहुत बार ऐसा होता क्या है कि inference, since it is not exactly substantiated by a claim or an argument, we tend to overreach what has been said in the passage, and the idea that we infer, sensationalize it in the back of our mind and search for that. And the problem drafters know of this. इसीलिए most of the times they will have an extreme sensationalized idea that a very reasonable reader will pick after reading a passage. So you need not be a reasonable reader, you also need to be a cautious one. You need to pick up the idea that does not only feel true but is true within the contours of the passage. Secondly, irrelevant truths, factually correct but unsupported by statements, are out of scope. The conclusions that can be drawn within the passage are only relevant for us. Facts correct हो सकते हैं, new evidence हो सकता है, but we need to strictly inference. What do you infer from the passage? Get it? Strictly we need to restrict ourselves to the information that is supplied to us within the passage. Next, stated facts are not inference. If it copies the text, it is not an inference. Repetition is not inference, interpretation is. I have already told you. The stated facts अगर repeat हो रहे हैं, be very cautious of them. And misreading the tone. Inference में एक और बहुत important चीज आ जाती है, tone को समझना of the author. I have these lectures, I understand these are not मतलब that lengthy or that comprehensive in itself, but in the batch when I teach, I do not essentially start from teaching question types. My first two lectures will be teaching you how to actually read. Active reading कैसे करनी होती है. In the batch, people of the batch, if you are also watching this video, you will be able to relate how we read passage together and mark them as arguments, claims, substantiation. This substantiation relates to this relates to that, all of that. That becomes very very important, because मैं अभी बोल दूंगा कि tone और intent को समझ लो, but you will not be able to understand it in a go. So yes, in a nutshell, try to follow what the author is trying to push. And for that, try to dig a bit more deeper into active reading. That's only I can suggest to you within the boundaries I have been offered. So yes, now that we understand all of that question, all of these thematic part, theoretical part, I told you ना एक question discuss करेंगे जो वीडियो के शुरुआत में दिखाया था. Let's read that question. Why has the tide of democratization repeatedly exceeded expectations? The various backslidings, reversals, and black holes for democracy have led to theories which posit wondrous prerequisites and an agonizing ordeal of democratization. A very good question. A very good start to a paragraph. The tide of democratization repeatedly exceeded its expectations. मिल गया एक thematic part of ये मिल गया है हमको. Next पढ़ते हैं. I understood थोड़ा verbose है, but as you read, you will be able to go through it. This serves as a convenient pretext for dictators to insist that their countries are not ready for it. Like the revolutionary leader in Woody Allen's Bananas, who upon taking power announces, the people are peasants, they are too ignorant to vote. The awe is reinforced by civics class idealization of democracy, in which an informed populace deliberates about the common good and carefully selects leaders who carry out their preference. So it tells that democracy, how it has repeatedly exceeded its expectation, and how dictators use it to tell you something that nahi, democracy is not good and people are too ignorant. Democracy requires very well and formalized people. Good start. I am really liking this paragraph. By that standard, the number of democracies in the world is 0 in the past, 0 in the present, and almost certainly 0 in the future. A very good satire this has written. Political scientists are repeatedly astonished by the shallowness and incoherence of people's political beliefs, and by the tenuous connection of their preferences to their votes and to the behavior of their representatives. ठीक है? Most voters are ignorant not just of current policy options but of basic facts, such as what the major branches of government are, and who the United States fought in World War II, and which countries have used nuclear weapons. Their opinions flip depending on how a question is worded. They say that government spends too much on welfare but too little on assistance to the poor, and that it should use military force but not go to war. When they do formulate a preference, they commonly vote for a candidate with the opposite one. But it hardly matters, because once the office politicians once in the office, politicians vote the positions of their party regardless of the opinions and the constituents. So वही चीज है, democracy की failure के बारे में tells you and gives you very good arguments. Keep these arguments with you, because they will help you win on the exam paper. They tell you about a lot of these things, how people are essentially ignorant. People answer the question, try to answer the question on the based on which they are worded, matlab politically motivated, and even that if they choose a side, they vote for the opposite one. And even that does not matter, because at the end of the day, everyone follows this partisan model, and opinion and actual political ideology के लिए तो कोई vote करता ही नहीं है, कोई stand होता ही नहीं है. I really like this paragraph. Nor does voting even provide much of a feedback signal about a government's performance. Voting, how, in essentially, does not provide anything ये वहाँ पे दे रहा है. Voters punish incumbents for recent events over which they have dubious control, such as macroeconomic swings and terrorist strikes, or no control on at all, such as drought, flood, even shark attack. जो गवर्नमेंट इनकम्बेंट गवर्नमेंट का इन चीजों के ऊपर कंट्रोल नहीं होता है, वोटर्स पनिश देम ऑन दैट. Many political scientists have concluded that most people correctly recognize that their votes are astronomically unlikely to affect the outcome of an election, and so they prioritize work, family, leisure over educating themselves about politics and calibrating their votes. This is very very pessimistic in its approach. Let's go ahead with it. They use the franchise as a form of self-expression. They vote for candidates who they think are like them and stand for that kind of people. Okay. This, in essentiality, tell us a lot about Abhi. Since we are nearing the conclusion, if I had to read this paragraph the way I read in batches, I will just summarize it in something that it tells you about how people vote. Not what people vote, how people vote. What do they vote for? And everything, and how voting in itself is a very inefficient activity, and how it connects that to challenge this entire spirit of democracy and everything that democracy stands for. Voter ignorance के ऊपर है effectively this passage. So despite the widespread belief that elections are the quintessence of democracy, they are only one of the mechanisms by which a government is held responsible to those it governs, and not always a constructive one. ये essentially वही बोलता है कि voting is not essentially everything about it, is not the pith and substance of democracy. When an election is a contest between aspiring despots, rival factions fear the worst if the other side wins and try to intimidate each other from the ballot box. Voting is something that people nowadays use to actually make it a tool of this political agenda, political everything. But voting, the way it was envisaged to connect to democracy and democratic selection procedure, it has failed. Voting is more of a method of self-expression than a method in which you actually elect and actually evaluate a government. This is the main idea of the passage. And arguments उसी के ऊपर दिए हुए हैं. Inference arguments के अंदर से हमें निकालना है. What inference can be drawn from the author's view of voter rationality? पढ़ते हैं. Voters are always rational in the political decisions. Author तो critically इसको ये करते हैं. तो secondly, first, because the author critically ये मतलब negates this, and secondly the word always. I told you na, no extremes. So this option is gone. Voters would make better choices if provided with better information. Okay, let's keep it in the loop because I think it is out of the ambience of the passage. Voter ignorance is primarily due to educational failure. ये education के बारे में बात कहाँ हुई? Even if you give them good education, we talked कि people voluntarily opt out of this process because they know that it's ना कुछ ये effect होने वाला है नहीं political process में. Voters consciously decide to not invest their time in political education. This is something that I can actually infer from the passage जो अभी just discuss किया कि people have rightly pointed this out कि voting is just a method of self-expression and not a method in which you can hold the government accountable and everything. जो B option where I kept it in the loop to tell you that ये जो better information and everything ये feel true है. ये passage पढ़ोगे तो तुम दिमाग में एक solution बना दोगे and this is that solution. But this is beyond the passage. The correct option is D. So yes, guys, this was our lecture video for what? Inference question. I hope you really like this video. With that said, I end this video and hope that you really liked it. So let's wait for the next video wherein we'll be discussing mostly specific detailed questions, and keep preparing questions like this from past year papers. You can find them on our website nlsat.in, and keep preparing for the mock test on 9th of July. With that said, this was Surya from Lawfren, aim to be.
Are you preparing for 3-year LLB entrance exams but feeling overwhelmed and unsure where to start? Do you struggle with finding the right resources, guidance and clarity, all in one place? Tired of institutions selling just mock tests or rebranding old materials meant for other exams and charging a fortune for it? Introducing Lawfren, your one-stop solution for 3-year LLB entrance exams. Lawfren brings you cutting-edge tools to supercharge your preparation. With our exams portal, you can participate in live All India tests and instantly see your rank, giving you real-time insights into your performance. Practice questions on individual topics, sharpen your skills, and get exam ready with confidence. Lawfren, aim to be.